meditation. People always want to make exceptions to the rule when the subject comes to Buddhist meditation. People always want to make statements without having done any reading, without providing any footnotes or any sources. Buddhist meditation is certainly a subject that everyone feels that they're an expert on, even more than, say, yoga. At least people, go to some kind of school or quote some book and make some claim about Hindu yoga. But plenty of that is bullshit too, don't get me wrong. But wow, modern Western people will make up anything about Buddhist meditation. And of course, East Asia has been racing to catch up in the bullshit Olympics. And why? Because there's money involved. I've heard many atheists say on YouTube that the ultimate scam in the world is to convince people that they have to pay you money so that you can, run a church on behalf of an invisible God. No, I beg to differ. Running a church and doing all the things the church does, that's a lot of work, and that costs a lot of money. If you can get people to line up and pay you money so they can sit in silence, that's the ultimate scam. Oh, wait, to compete with it, what if people pay you just to learn how to breathe? Yes, breathing meditation. Man, Buddhism, we have some of the most lucrative scams in the game as far as religion goes. When atheists get animated about creationism. Creationism, for those who don't know, it's an example I'm drawing from modern Protestant Christianity. Maybe some Catholics are interested too. Creationism is the idea that we can scientifically prove that God created the world and that the biblical account, the biblical description of the origin of the world is totally incompatible with the theory of evolution and with geology and other findings of modern science. Creationism. What makes it so embarrassing, so difficult to listen to? What makes you wince and feel uncomfortable when people are giving apologies for explanations of creationism? It's not that they're wrong about particular facts. Being wrong is something that happens to human beings. And, we're all infinitely ignorant. It's easy to sympathize with someone who's just factually wrong. And it isn't even that they're wrong ethically or morally, although obviously there's a lot wrong with their position. What makes it hard to even listen to a creationist argument is that they're trying so hard to use the Bible to answer questions that are neither asked nor answered in the Bible. I remember a video that was posted by James Randi, a magician who later became a kind of cheerleader for skepticism and atheism. And he was asked a question from the audience by a woman who was quite offended by his atheism. And this woman demanded of him, from her position as a Christian creation, she demanded of him, well, how do you explain gravity? How do you explain time? And actually, James Randi, he got flustered. He didn't give a very good reply. But what makes it so absurd for the creationists to attack modern science isn't that their particular answers are wrong, but that this woman, for example, in attacking James Randi, she thought of the Bible as a book that did have an answer to the question, what is gravity? What is time? And those questions are neither asked nor answered in the Bible. If you think modern science doesn't answer them sufficiently, well, at least you can go to a bookshelf and get out a book any number of books that are titled What is Gravity? What is Time? From various perspectives and disciplines, asking these questions philosophically in terms of theoretical physics, all kinds of material like that. And it's totally lacking in the Bible. The Bible doesn't give you an answer one way or the other. You know, the famous trial of Galileo Galilei. Well, you know, the Bible doesn't really contain a doctrine about the earth rotating around the sun and the sun rotating. It's not important from the perspective of the Bible, although a few little quotations were brought together, and the fear of heliocentrism. Obviously, there's a long story there. Some of you will know, some of you don't. But it's painful to see Christians getting upset over something that they should really be indifferent to. There shouldn't be a conflict over the geological age of the earth. Obviously, it's my opinion, but the whole enterprise of creationism is based on this, ludicrous need for the Bible to answer questions it doesn't even ask. This is a video about Buddhist meditation. Let me tell you, when modern Western people look for meditation in the ancient sutras, they're asking questions that aren't even there. Their idea of what the word meditation is, what it means, has nothing to do with anything dealt with in the canon. I've seen so many claims that Buddhist meditation is a science of the mind, that it is equivalent to modern CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Another great way to make money, let me tell you. No scientific basis to it, but hey. The idea that Buddhism is psychotherapy, that Buddhist meditation has some kind of, medical function for the mind, comparable to the wildest fantasies of early Freudians when they were devising psychotherapy. Fantasies they later gave up on, of course, because their pseudoscience never got the results it hoped for. You're asking questions that are totally irrelevant to the interests of the ancient text and the ancient religion. This video, I'm going to keep it short. I could do a long series, but probably depressing for everyone involved. What happens when you really do meditate, when you achieve jhana, the sequence of jhanas set out in the Pali Canon? Do you get in touch with your inner child or feel better about your bourgeois life or some shit like this? Do you get the outcomes of modern psychotherapy, the modern science of the mind, and the desiderata of cognitive behavioral therapy? No. It is an experience that makes it impossible for you to live in society. You must renounce all your worldly possessions. You must give up sex for the rest of your life. And your transformation isn't merely mental, it's also supernatural. You gain the ability to walk through walls and fly through the air like Superman. And just in case some of you are tempted to believe that this also is science, like, well, hey, come on, maybe some people in ancient India really had the ability to fly through the air like Superman. The original ancient descriptions of what that's like themselves make it impossible to believe anyone ever did this. We all know if these people could fly through the air like Superman, first thing they'd be complaining about is getting the wind in their eyes and the hardness to see anything, and a number of other practical factors, freezing in the upper atmosphere. But no, we get poetic descriptions of the joy of flying through the air and feeling the surface of the sun with your fingertips. This is an ancient, magical view of the world that presumed the sun was much smaller than we know it is in terms of modern science, that the sun was much closer to the earth than we know it is according to modern science, and that the sun isn't nearly as hot as we know it is, because that's the vision. It's a vision any child could come up with in their dreams, but it's obviously not a vision that reflects someone who actually achieved this superpower through meditation. Because let me tell you, no matter how hard you meditate, you're neither going to get the phony pseudo-medical results claimed by modern snake oil salesmen cynically in the name of Buddhism, nor are you going to get the results promised by the ancient texts, which are magical, which are supernatural in their nature, and which, frankly, deserve respect, deserve to be studied, like any ancient religion, whether it's Socrates, Aristotle, or the Han Dynasty philosophers of ancient China, but that should not be regarded as science. In a sense, it's disrespectful both to us as a modern audience and the ancient text to evaluate them in that way. Appreciate what is ancient as ancient, and let's appreciate what's modern and scientific as modern.